AITA for announcing the reason why I didn't invite my brother to my wedding and exposing him to the entire family. I got married 2 weeks ago. I was married before, but it ended after I found out that my older brother Thomas got involved with my first wife. It was devastating because we were close and had a great relationship. I also helped him so much while he was struggling, and seeing how he repaid me hurts to this very day. I stopped talking to him, and Mom and Dad forced me to keep it a secret, and because I was too weak to argue with them, I just kept my own distance. Then I met my now wife. My family loved and embraced her as their own. Mom and Dad treat her like a queen, which helped repair and solidified my relationship with them. However, as the wedding was approaching, they told me they expected me to invite Thomas. I of course refused, but they kept guilting me about what the relatives and other guests would think and say when they don't see Thomas there. I fought with them about it till the day of the wedding. Turned out they'd invited him behind my back, but I found out and stopped them in time. They came to the wedding looking pissed, asking what we were going to tell people when they ask about Thomas. I told them I'd take care of it, and what I did was take a moment while everyone was paying attention, grabbed the mic and flat out announced this, and said the reason I didn't invite Thomas to my wedding is because I was worried he'd steal my now wife just like he stole the first one. I said it playfully to not make it sound so tense, but most of the guests looked shocked and started mumbling. Then it went awkwardly quiet for a moment. Then we moved on, but I saw Mom and Dad walk out while looking at me grudgingly. Later they started lashing out about how I just exposed Thomas and caused him to be shunned by the family in the most hideous of ways. I told them that I already said I didn't want him there, yet they tried to push him on me repeatedly, saying what are people going to say. So I told them the reason why he wasn't there in a playful way, but they still got the message. Mom started yelling about how everyone will now look down on and shun Thomas. She called me pathetic and cruel for still punishing him and gradually ruining his life despite him apologizing and trying to reconcile, but in my opinion, some things are just unforgivable. We've been on horrible terms since then. AITA. My wife said at least now they're off my back about what people would say about not inviting him. Story 2. AITA for refusing to go home when my husband told me to. I'm using a throwaway just in case. My husband Tom and I have been married for 2 years. He has a habit of getting me to leave an event early as soon as he gets bored or sees someone he doesn't like come to the event. He doesn't outright say it, but pretends to get sick and force me to go home with him. Soon as we leave, he'd immediately go back to normal, and suddenly all the pain and headache go away. He then admitted it's a strategy to get out of boring, undesperate events. Thing is, this has been happening way too often, and I keep falling for it. More importantly, it has impacted my relationship with family and friends. I told him many times that he could go home by himself if he doesn't feel comfortable at an event, and not trick me into going home with him. He told me that I had to leave with him, otherwise people would ask how he could drive while sick. I told him it's not my problem, and next time he does this I won't just play along. He smirked at me and we stopped bringing it up. 2 days ago was my sister's 18th birthday. It was obviously a huge event since she's the youngest in the family. Tom first said he wouldn't go, then asked me to not go as well because he was feeling sick from what? Didn't specify. I said no and gave him the option to stay home, but he got dressed last minute and went with me. We got there. I went to stay with my parents and saw my sister. About 15 minutes later, Tom came up to me saying he was feeling nauseous and told me to go home with him because he was feeling sick. I figured he just got bored and was pretending to be sick to get me to go home with him just cause he didn't like the party. I told him no and that he needed to stop these games cause this was my sister's birthday. He swore he was sick, but I refused to go. He then gave me a nasty stare. Then at dinner we all sat down to eat, but he didn't. He kept staring, then started moving in his chair, and few minutes later he dropped down and started throwing up near the chair. Everyone got up from their seats and Dad went to help him up immediately. I couldn't believe it. I just stood there as Mom and Dad helped him up while he shouted she knew I was sick. I told her I was sick and needed to go home, but she just wouldn't believe me. Everyone heard this and stared at me. I felt guilt, shame, embarrassment, especially with how my dad looked at me to confirm this statement. It was horrible. Dinner was cut short and I had to drive him home. I got berated by both my family and him, and they called me neglectful and with no empathy to refuse to listen when he told me he was sick. He's been upset with me about what happened and refused to even talk except to say it was my fault. The party was ruined for everyone. I can't even talk about what my sister thinks of this since this was her party. Was I really the in this situation? Story 3. AITA for not saving my girlfriend's son when he was pinned under a bench press. I'm a 36-year-old man, and my girlfriend is 34. I'll call her Jenny. She has a son who is 14, from a previous relationship. I'll call him George. Jenny and I get along well in basically all but one department. George, as bad as this is going to make me sound, I really don't like this kid. But Jenny's rose-tinted glasses for him might as well be painted with a coat of black at this point. She legitimately cannot stop enabling his bad behavior. let alone recognize it for what it is. This friction has only gotten worse as she moved in with me 2 months ago because they could no longer afford to live alone. I have a basement gym that I have poured over $7,000 into. It has multiple types of high-end barbells, a power rack, and various other equipment. In past days I was a competitive power lifter, and although I've scaled back a lot on that front, I still train very hard. When Jenny and George moved in, George started to use my home gym uninvited. I first warned him not to, but by lying through his teeth, he has consistently done it behind my back. I can tell because he leaves barbells loaded and equipment moved. I then put a lock on the door, which George broke down with a hammer. I then reinforced the door and put a new lock on, which George could not penetrate. Jenny, however, insists on having a spare key to the basement, and I recently learned that she has been loaning it to George. She tried cleaning up after him, but I could tell, since he and she are home during the day as he takes lessons online, I can do nothing about it. Jenny won't return my key either. A couple of days ago, I got home from work and decided to hit the gym. Noticing the door open, I walked down the stairs, only to find George in the middle of a bench press set. As I watched him from the stairs, he went for one rep too many and got pinned. He was in no danger at any point because the barbell was low on his sternum, and plus it was only like 80 pounds. After 30 seconds of panic mode, he finally got the bright idea to dump the weight, to which I gave him a slow clap. I started to tell him that that's what happens when you work out alone, and he then shrieked at me red-faced. Then he insulted my strength, to which I responded that I'm not the one getting pinned under an 80-pound bench. He ran upstairs basically in tears, and then told Jenny what I had said. Jenny is also furious at me and they're both giving me the silent treatment. She says I should have handled the situation better, but I say I kind of did when I installed a heavy-duty door and put a new lock on it. I'm going to be changing the lock tomorrow. Did I go too far with how I dealt with George here? Edit. Sorry. I call him Craig at some point. That isn't his real name either. George equals Craig because for some reason I got confused between two names that don't sound similar whatsoever. Story 4. AITA for bullying my cousin. My older cousin is getting married. A few weeks ago we were all talking about what we are gonna wear for her wedding, and one of my cousins showed us a picture of her dress. It was a wedding dress. It was white, long, and basically a typical wedding dress. Everyone tried talking to her, asking her to please not to wear it, but she wouldn't listen. Her parents also took her side. For the next few days everyone tried to convince them to get another dress, but they refused. As she is the youngest member of our family, she gets away with pretty much everything, so they finally gave up and decided to let her wear it, but Nora was very upset. She didn't want to make drama, especially because no one was on her side anymore, so me and my other cousins decided to fix this. Last night when our family gathered together, we all started talking in a way we knew Sarah could hear us, and we mocked her dress and made fun of her for wearing a wedding dress at someone else's wedding. The whole time we were laughing and mocking her until she had tears in her eyes and told her parents she doesn't want to wear it anymore. She went home but texted me and told me I'm an awe for doing this to her and bullying her. I kind of feel like an awe, but I think I was justified, so AITA.